Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Society of Albany. My name is Reverend Sam Trumbore, and we have a special service today because we are welcoming the Schenectady UUs to join us. Welcome. Before we begin, please check to make sure your microphone is muted. The same for your camera if your image is potentially distracting. Please also be mindful of your speech while on Zoom, as microphones have a way of accidentally getting unmuted. This will minimize any disruption in our service. Thanks so much for your cooperation. Now, this is the time of transition from ordinary time to sacred time. Time to check in with the body and collect your attention to be present in this moment. Let this moment be separated from yesterday and tomorrow. May this virtual space be your sanctuary for the next hour. Allow Zoom to be your container for that space, to hold the images, sounds, and music, the songs, poetry, and prose, to lift your heart, broaden your mind, and move you to do justice in the world in the service of building beloved community. Although we are not physically present together this morning, may this virtual service be holy time for each of us that joins us together in the celebration of life. And our prelude is We Keep Going, Corona 2020 by Jan Negro. And the musician is the Vitamin. And let us light our chalice together with the words that you'll see on your screen. Welcoming all free seekers of truth and meaning, we gather to excite the human spirit, to inspire its growth and development, to respond morally and ethically to a troubled world, and to sustain a vital and nurturing religious community. And we invite you to sing together at home. We sing of golden mornings, and Elena Karpov will be our song. And we have a wisdom story for you from Leah.
Our story today is about imagination. It's the Everything Seed, written by Carol Matignaco and illustrated by Joy Troiner. Once long ago, way back before the beginning, so long ago, there was no such thing as time, because there was no one there to count it. Everywhere was a huge, deep, mysterious place, like something waiting to happen. There were no stars, no sun, no moon. There was no place like Earth, not a drop of water, or a single tree, or rock, or flower, no living beings anywhere. But in that deep waiting space was hidden the tiniest point of something no bigger than a seed. It was not a flower seed. It was not an elm tree seed. It was not the seed of corn. Although those things were included in the seed, you might call it an everything seed, because that's what it became. Now, no one knows for sure where that first seed came from, or how it was planted, or how it knew how long to wait for just the right moment to sprout and grow. But all at once, the seed which had been cradled and nourished in the rich soil of space woke up, broke open, and began to unfold. Unfolding, 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 and blossoming forth into an enormous blazing ball of light, like a great-grandmother's sun. And the universe was born. Out fluttered the galaxies, swirling and gathering into the brightest, most blindingly beautiful clouds of stars. And out of those star clouds whirled our own star, the one we call the sun, and our Earth, and our moon, and all the other round spinning planets we have learned to name. And this is the secret of that tiny seed. You and I were there in the very beginning, just as the idea for each leaf on a big oak tree lies hidden inside an acorn. We were there with all the stars and planets and oceans and rocks and animals and plants and more animals and all the people. Everything that is now, ever was, or ever will be was inside that first tiny seed. So whenever you hold a seed in your hand and wonder what could become of it, imagine how you and all there is here once came from the tiniest speck of an everything seed. Now, if this was an ordinary story, it would end right here. But this story of the universe keeps unfolding. What once began as a blazing blossom of light continues today with new stars sprouting in the deep soil of space. New plants and animals appear on the earth. Seeds of many kinds are blown about and scattered everywhere. And new people are born every day with the spark still alive and burning deep inside, waiting to shine in ways that are yet to be known. And that's the end of the story. And I wanted to tell you this story in our Unitarian Universalist gatherings because it's the new year. And we can use our imagination and science and creativity and love and compassion to help the universe unfold in ways that grow peace and justice.
Well, we're fortunate that our Facebook viewers have already joined us, and we welcome them to our Albany Unitarian Universalist service. And I have some opening words for you. We are here. We survived 2020 and are now just beginning 2021. The transition is almost over, almost, as this weekend draws to a close. It's as if we've been suspended between 2020 and 2021 with this Friday to Sunday transition, with the real solid beginning about to happen, for me at least, on Monday. That will be the day to really get fully serious about this new year. In this Janus time of looking both backward and forward, may today's service energize that transition and grant our imaginations a little creative time to dream ourselves into 2021. Let us consider what we learned and experienced in 2020 that we'd like to bring forward and what we'd definitely like to leave behind. And let us consider the many possibilities opening before us as we begin to vanquish this virus. I have a reading for you now that comes from the New York Times. It was titled, I Learned to Appreciate My Husband and Other Silver Linings of 2020. The New York Times asked readers to name one good thing that happened in an otherwise dismal year. They got more than 1,500 responses. There were 3 excerpts that caught my attention that I wanted to share with you this morning from 3 people. Joseph Mondry of Aspen, Colorado, Ann Throdall from San Jose, California, and Jeff Horton, who lives in Keller, Texas. So listen with me now for those. While obviously challenging and even devastating for many, this year of COVID has forced us all to reevaluate what is important and even necessary in our lives. COVID has brought family members back home to share quality time together and reconnect. It has enabled us to spend more time reading books, watching shows, and playing games, providing opportunities to learn, contemplate, or just slow down. The year 2020 has been a seemingly never-ending stream of heartache, but never have I ever felt so connected with friends and family. We started a daily Zoom call for our family when the first quarantine started in March, and the call is still going strong 9 months later. Sometimes people can't make it or they drop in for just a quick hello, but it's a daily reminder that even apart, we are connected by our mutual love and care for each other. Despite everything, we did not give up. We found new levels of courage, humility, resilience, and resolve, and renewed our understanding of compassion. But that is not all. Newborns arrived, students graduated, marriages, birthdays, and anniversaries were celebrated. Agreements were signed, careers started, discoveries were made, solutions were found. People found love, many of us for the umpteenth time since we met. Shoulders were leaned on, aid was rendered, lives were saved. Faith was found, memorials were held, kind words spoken. We began to heal. We did not give up. The United States has weathered every crisis: independence, civil war, foreign wars, surprise attacks, economic setbacks, assassinations, civil and cultural change. We've endured by realizing the capacity to do what must be done. I remain optimistic and retain my belief in a better tomorrow. Let us pause now for a spoken meditation. Let us turn inward. To reflect on what we are discarding from 2020 and what we are bringing forward. Especially let us pause to give our imaginations room to run with 2021. What possibilities have you dared not imagine when we didn't know when this pandemic might end? What wouldn't you consider before we first heard that there might be an effective vaccine? Where might you consider going? What might you do? Who might you meet? that 2020 prevented from happening. During this silent meditation, let your imagination roam free. One year ago, we had no idea what we were in for. So much hasn't happened as we anticipated it would. So many trips, performances, events were canceled. So many businesses had to shut their doors. Most regrettably, so many became seriously ill and died. It all broke open, however, in November with the announcement of an effective vaccine. Suddenly, there was hope that we could stop this pandemic. The effect has been to unleash our imaginations. Our theme at Albany UU is imagination for January. This is quite an appropriate theme for the beginning of a new year. And because it coincides with our budgeting process for our congregation's coming fiscal year that begins July 1st. Those budget requests are due next Sunday, by the way. This year, we're encouraging our committees and teams to use our vision to guide their imagination about what they'd like to do in the 2021-2022 budget year. Let me remind you now of our vision we're working on. Here it is. Albany UU will be an inclusive, welcoming congregation. Our sacred work is to lift hearts, broaden minds, and to do justice in the world in service of building beloved community. This morning, I'd like to take you on an imaginative journey into upcoming events and ideas about how this year might unfold, not knowing, of course, what surprises may come. Please listen, not just to my words, plans, and ideas, but more importantly, how you inwardly respond to them. You'll find a chance to ask yourself, do you find what I'm imagining attractive? Do you find the Spirit starting to move in you in response to what I propose or suggest? Is your imagination engaged and moving you to want to get involved in moving a plan or idea into reality? I recognize we have guests this morning from Schenectady joining us. Your congregation's vision may not look exactly like ours, but I expect we have some overlap. And some of what I'm imagining could become a regional collaboration if it strikes a chord with your congregation. Over the last 10 years, we've sought ways for our UU congregations in the Capital Region to be mutually supportive, to build Unitarian Universalist awareness, presence, joint worship, education, and social action. We have a congregational response after our service that will be at 11:30 right here, and we encourage you to stay and join that conversation. Here we go. The murder of George Floyd and the response by our congregations and many people here and all over this nation and around the world, for that matter, brought new energy to our inclusivity work last year. One theme that repeatedly comes up is the need for white identified people to recognize their participation in white supremacy culture, to disidentify with it, and to work to dismantle it. Last year, we worked with the Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility, in 2 discussion groups with Gemma to energize that process. I saw DiAngelo interviewed by Alice Green for the New York Writers Institute this summer. I heard DiAngelo recommend a book titled The Racial Healing Handbook by Annalise Singh. I read it and decided it would be a good class. Jay Holly, a member of our congregation, and I will be using this book to work toward racial healing that we hope will energize participants to work for healing in our society by dismantling white supremacy. That 8-week class will start Tuesday, January 19th at 7:30. Working with our intern last year, the now Reverend Dan Miyake, stimulated my imagination. Since the 1950s, there have been revolutionary changes introduced by lesbian, gay, and transgender theologians seeking and finding themselves reflected in the Bible, especially in the radical love of Jesus. I'm wondering if some of their innovative thinking will stimulate a greater appreciation of Jesus among everyone in our congregations, but especially the more secularly oriented, heterosexual, gender-conforming Unitarian Universalists. I'll be speaking about this in my sermon on January 25th. Information about both were in the Thursday windows. One way we might be lifting hearts, besides working for inclusion and welcome inside our congregation, is just outside our doors. We've made a commitment to serve our neighbors on West and Bradford Streets, as well as in West Hill across Central Avenue. We also have a strong interest in working in the South End, where we have members who live in the Mansion neighborhood. Our partnership with Sheridan Preparatory Academy, a public elementary school just a few blocks away, has validated the importance of taking direction rather than starting with our own ideas of what we think will help. We were told Sheridan Prep needed a better playground and helped them build one. As requested, our members have volunteered to support teachers in the classroom. David Musser found out that we were short, that the Sheridan Academy was short of Chromebooks. So we started working to take old laptops and convert them to function as Chromebooks. If that is in your skill set, you might want to talk with David about this. The neighbors just around us have been hard to contact, as we don't have an active neighborhood association or much participation by our neighbors in our congregation. What might we do to discover and serve their needs? We have many immigrants here due to the mosque and Hillel stores on Central Avenue. How will a Biden administration change people's immigration status? What about access to vaccines? Will our neighbors be able to get them? Might we be a site where our neighbors, and our members for that matter, could get vaccinated down the road? All questions to consider. After 4 years of a president who solidifies his base by causing conflict and division between people, I'm hoping this year will begin a healing process in our body politic. Yet I doubt that broadening minds will happen all by itself. I've been attracted to the work of a group called Braver Angels. They strive to create opportunities for red and blue folks to meet and talk using tools that facilitate communication, listening, and learning, rather than conflict that reinforces existing stereotypes and prejudices. In the beginning of December, some of us met with 2 local leaders from Braver Angels. One fellow, Bruce France, is the director of Capital Area Council of Churches. He spoke of churches in the Capital Region that were wounded by the divisive politics of the last 4 years, and fights over marriage equality too. He suggested our congregation and Braver Angels might be able to work together and help. As he spoke, I realized how much our congregation has retreated from involvement with local religious organizations since the demise of the Arise faith-based community organizing effort 10 years ago. I started imagining ways we might be able to work with Braver Angels and Capital Area Council of Churches to build relationships that might also advance appreciation of Unitarian Universalism by other religious organizations. Our pluralistic approach is a strength that might be able to be shared with them. And Braver Angels' methods might be helpful for our own internal divisions that simmer below the surface. Some of our strongest commitments in our vision is doing justice in the world. There is an abundance of ways to do that to stimulate our imagination. I stopped by the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act website, climate.ny.gov. climate.ny.gov. Wow, there is an intense amount of activity in its 5 advisory panels. I read a bunch of their postings. Achieving the leading legislative goals of zero greenhouse gas electricity by 2040 40 and reducing emissions to 85% of 1990 levels by 2050 will not be easy or simple. Hard choices and advocacy will be required. And that is where we can come in, using our imagination to sustain the work. Our Green Sanctuary committees will have many opportunities for that advocacy to support the CLCPA work and keep it on track, if not accelerate it. Another related effort that is gathering steam is reducing and eliminating many disposable plastics commonly being used. Former EPA director and local green activist Judith Enck will be here virtually on January 14th to discuss her efforts. Let us use our imaginations to see how we can address this overwhelming problem that is having a devastating effect on our rivers, our lakes, and our oceans. The Defund the Police initiative by the Black Lives Matter movement motivated Governor Cuomo to require police departments to review their policies and procedures with outside input. Here in Albany, that has been accomplished by the Albany Policing Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. One of our members, Jill Peckinpah, is a member of this collaborative effort. Jay Holly is working on a similar panel in Del Mar. They will be submitting their required report in April. I imagine we will want to be part of any effort to make sure the reforms recommended are considered and enacted. Some of the strongest advocates for reform out on the streets has been a group led by Jamaica Miles called All of Us. I saw her talk about her Black Lives Matter work on a Times Union broadcast that impressed me. She is interested in building partnerships, not just making demands, which she is also very good at doing. I'm wondering if she might be a partner we could work with, who could also be an accountability partner for our anti-racism work. Accountability partnerships based in trust and mutual support are crucial to effective anti-racism work. Those kinds of partnerships will be critical for an initiative Peggy Sherman and I are working on to get off the ground. New York Unitarian Universalists for Justice. We are imagining this as a UU New York State advocacy network for our UU congregations to work together on justice initiatives. Some of our work will be in partnership with interfaith New York State advocacy groups working for legislative change at the Capitol. Some of our work will be in collaboration with other UU state advocacy networks, like the UU The Vote effort this fall. Some of our work will be responding to grassroots initiatives in local areas that have much wider implications, like our anti-fracking efforts were a few years ago. The widest my imagination is roaming right now is wondering if we have the interest and energy to consider another partner-church relationship. When we started our work in Transylvania in the early 1990s, that church was coming out of oppression by the Ceausescu regime. Communism had fallen and they were in desperate need. Today, our partner church in Circofalva has stabilized. And their attention isn't so much here as it is with the European Union these days. I'm wondering if there are other places in the world where a partnership with a UU congregation could protect and save lives. I'm thinking of oppression of LGBT folks in Africa, in UU congregations there. I'm thinking of repression of Unitarians in the Philippines. What about Unitarian churches in Poland where women's rights are threatened? This is just blue sky right now. But I appreciate this moment to share my imagination with you to see if there's a response. Join me at 11:30 and let me know. Finally, I want to say something about beloved community that our vision serves. In the process of passing our covenant in November, questions about beloved community repeatedly came up. I'm aware that there has been a great deal of conversation about it at UUA General Assembly each year that hasn't quite gotten back to our congregation, and I'll take some responsibility and blame for that. Though I preached about it a year ago in January, and you'll find a copy of that sermon in my sermon archive. Fortunately, the theme for February is beloved community. We'll have a whole month to develop our understanding and appreciation of what it is, how it works, and how it deeply relates to Unitarian Universalism. I hope it will help us better understand and motivate us to live into our vision. So there you have a whirlwind tour of my thoughts about how to live into the vision of our congregation. Some of what I've mentioned will happen as soon as 2 weeks from now. Other imaginative ideas may never come to fruition. And you may be imagining ways to enact our vision and mission as a congregation that might inspire me and or the leadership of our congregation. We are not a top-down organization that takes direction from the UUA. They too have lots of ideas for us to consider, like the widening the circle of concern report of the UUA Commission on Institutional Change, delivered at our UUA General Assembly in June. As a covenanted association of congregations, we need to consider this report this year. And some of what you've heard from me today are imaginative ways of responding to it. The next step is all of ours as we begin to end pandemic mode and put more energy toward bringing our vision we've imagined together to life. So be it, and amen.
Good morning. My name is John Newell. I am the Service Associate today. An important way we celebrate life each Sunday is by offering an opportunity to practice generosity. Members and friends support our congregation with an annual pledge paid throughout the year. Another way to support the good work of this congregation is by making a generous contribution via one of the options now shown in the next slide. You can click on the tiny URL in the chat window now to contribute, or you can send a text to the number shown on the screen. The examples on the slide show how you can label your text to indicate the amount and purpose or intent of your gift. We must now say goodbye to our Facebook friends who, nevertheless, may consider joining us on Zoom next time by visiting albanyuu.org. Our offertory music this morning is Humoresque by Anton Dvorak. It will be presented We enjoy welcoming guests and visitors to our service. If you are a guest or a visitor and would like to tell us who you are and where you're from, you can click on the blue raise hand symbol in the participant window. Our technician will invite you to unmute yourself and introduce yourself. You may also, or instead, click on the visitor link you'll find now in the chat window.
All right, I don't see anybody raising their hand for introduction at the moment.
Well, thank you all and welcome. I know you folks from Schenectady are perhaps a little bashful, but we're happy to have you. And we all wish to welcome all who have joined us today. If you'd like to learn more about our congregation or Unitarian Universalism in general, you can find in the participant window someone with welcome before their name. That's Barb Manning. You can reach out to her privately in the chat window now or after the service. We welcome the chance also to greet each other. In our Zoom format, this is done through virtual breakout rooms. You can say hello, share your name, a little chat. This will last a couple of minutes, and then we'll all come back together.
In the waiting room or the breakout rooms able to unmute themselves at this point?
I was able to unmute. I went to a breakout room, but I was the only person in it.
Me too. I was in room 24.
I was in room 7. There were just 2 of us in there.
There was 0, just like me in room 24.
Well, that's not true of everybody else. There seems to be lots of people in breakout rooms.
Yeah, not everybody follows the invitation for whatever reason.
Yep.
Yep.
I was in room number 25, which was a bit of a surprise. Only 3 people in it.
Were there people in your room, John?
3 people, yeah, Joe Peckinpah and a guy named Fisk. And
Paul.
Oh, Paul Fisk, yeah.
yeah, but if you make 25 rooms, you only get 3 apiece, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
I
there's
only had
4. I think there's
I have-
4 to
I have
5 in each room.
Tammy,
I
can
have
you
4
put
in
me in a
mine.
room with other people?
What's that?
Can you put me in a room with other people?
Well, let's see.
I think we're just about time to come back.
Okay,
Yeah.
never
Never mind.
All right.
PCA
Hey,
stand.
good story, Lee. I like that story.
Thank you. It's a good one.
Okay.
Lots of
Everybody
stuff.
get-
Yep. I'm waiting for my screen to show up.
All right. You think you're highlighted now, so. Or you should be soon.
And get the joys and concern.
Yep.
Okay.
5 more seconds.
Okay.
Actually, it's a good thing to
Yeah,
tell.
I think. Bye-bye.
Chris, you're reading Aldous Alvo's, right?
I will.
Mhm. That'll be first after my introduction.
Yeah, we got a big stack of them.
I don't know why we were brought back here so fast. That was like less than 5 minutes.
Oh, we only do 2 minutes.
Okay.
Well, here we are back together again. Who's on?
Chuck, you're on.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Is this another conversation group?
No, this is the time set aside in our service for joys and sorrows. So we're
Oh my gosh, yeah, I want to hear that.
okay. And please mute yourself. Thank you. It's a time in our service for sharing significant personal milestones in our lives. There are 3 ways to share a joy or sorrow. The first option is to type your joy or sorrow in the chat window. Please put the words "read aloud" at the beginning of your message if you would like us to do that. Please also consider connecting privately in the chat with a pastoral care associate. Today, the pastoral care associates are Randy, Rosette, and me, and we have PCA in front of our names. The second option is to click the blue raise hand symbol in the participant window. Our technician will unmute you and invite you to speak your joy or sorrow. The third option is to submit a joy or sorrow using our website by noon on Friday, prior to the service. We'll begin by reading those that were submitted this past week, and then we'll hear the spoken joys and sorrows, followed by the chat entries that I will read aloud. Go ahead, Chris.
First, we have a concern from Al DeSalvo, and he shares with us that his wife, Susan Thompson, had a setback late last week as a result of her fall and her fractured hip. She had some internal problems, which included an inflamed gallbladder, which could have proven serious. Susan was readmitted to St. Peter's to undergo a series of tests. Happily, all the tests proved negative. The suspicion was that her immune system went into high gear, which caused at least some of the problems. Now it's back to concentrating on physical therapy. Susan and I sincerely thank the Caring Network and so many of our friends at Albany UU for your support, kindness, and company. It has been particularly difficult, as most of you know, as no one is allowed to visit patients. Thank you, Al.
Okay, and then I have 3 that were submitted from Schenectady, from UUSS member David Weisenhunt. His father, Don Weisenhunt, passed away on December 29th. He is much loved and very missed. Our thoughts are with the Weisenhunt family, Donald's mother, Betsy, and all those who are grieving the loss of this kind and gentle man. 2 more from the Reverend Lynn and Reverend Wendy from Schenectady UU. We share with sadness that Samuel Katz, longtime UU Schenectady member, passed away Tuesday morning, following several months of home hospice care. He died peacefully with two of his children nearby. A memorial service will be held when it is safe to travel and gather. We will miss Sam's wry smile and gentle presence. And finally, healing wishes to Marion Nelson, who was taken to St. Peter's Hospital last week to treat extreme anemia. She is beginning to feel better. She welcomes phone calls to the hospital. She will either go home or to a physical rehab center on Monday. Updates will be included in circuits. And now we'll go to those who are raising their hand.
Well, Chuck, I don't see anybody who has raised their hand to be recognized here.
Okay, I do have some read alouds. From the Stand Fast, Ted is still in rehab and probably would appreciate some reaching out to them. From Zach and, hang on a second here. Okay.
It's Zach Cunningham.
Yep, Zach coming after 5+ years at CSEA. I'll be starting a new job at the Cornell University's ILR school. The job will be largely remote, so Kelly and I will be staying in Albany. I'm very excited for the new opportunity. From Dan Bernard to everyone, read aloud. I've finally been able to arrange the beginning of treatment for my mother. It's taken a long time to do that, but it's now looking like it will happen. From Chris Bystroff. Once again, I had a birthday. This happens every year. This time I'm a prime number. All you mathematicians can figure that one out. From Carolyn Bradley. There are now 2 more people in my brother's family who have COVID-19. So far, my brother has not tested positive. I'll read aloud from Mary Applegate. I am happy to report that the Albany County Health Department is planning a series of mass vaccination events. I'll be helping get vaccinations into arms. Hope to see you then. Typos. Hope to see you then, she says after fixing her typos. Okay. From the Salat Millers. Dorian's stepfather-in-law, Dorian's stepdad and father-in-law of Marshall Miller and grandfather of Anya and Zora has been hospitalized with a serious case of COVID for the last 10 days. From Kristen Vanderland. A joy after a roller coaster ride for my friend who had open heart surgery at Thanksgiving. He and his wife survived COVID-19 and he is now again home recovering. Okay. And I don't see any more read alouds. So I think that's the end of the joys and sorrows. For the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, let us hold all that we've heard and felt in our hearts.
And we have a prayer of affirmation that follows our joys and sorrows. And this is from Kate Lohr. Let us turn inward to receive these words. Great Spirit of life, as a new year begins, we turn inward to reflect about the state of our lives. What lessons have we learned in the past year, and which new ones now call us forward? To whom do we still owe an apology or an expression of thanks? And with whom must we draw fresh boundaries? As we pause from our regular rhythms of rush, 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 we open ourselves to new perspectives and possibilities. We give thanks for these moments and for the wisdom they afford us. May they help bring us together in the sacred dynamics of life that we, as individuals and as members of this community, might reach our full potential. As we step across this threshold, let this new year be a year of greater awe and gratitude, of deeper kindness and acceptance, and more courage and courageous acts of conviction. For a kinder, more equitable and sustainable world is not only possible, she is on her way. And in the quietness of this sacred community, we can never be separated from her. We can even hear her breathing. Amen. And we're ready to close with a song, Freedom is Coming, a South African beautiful song that is in our gray hymnal. And our song leader is Elena Karpov.
Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, freedom is coming. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, freedom is coming. Oh, freedom, freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know.
As we extinguish the chalice, please join in the words that will be shown on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our benediction this morning was written originally by Joseph Cleveland, the Reverend in Saratoga Springs. May we hear the melody of life and find ourselves singing harmony. May we be open to the dissonances in the song of the land and its people, that we might be part of the world's urging towards justice, peace, and love. May we feel in our bones the rhythms of life and the land and find ourselves dancing. Our thanks this morning go to our ushers, Tammy Hathaway, Don Odell, Jean Poppy, and Annika Pfluger. Our pastor care associates have been Chuck Manning and Randy Rosette. Our welcomer is Barb Manning. I'm your service associate, John Newell. The musicians and special guest, Anya Miller and Elena Karpov. We have obtained immensely important office support from Sapphire Korea, and as our ever faithful support, technical support from Chris Jensen. Thanks all to all of them.